Have you ever noticed that the more you argue, the more exhausted you become even if you technically win? And have you ever wondered why the calm person who does not compete so hard often ends up with the better outcome? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a pattern that quietly ruins relationships, drains health, and makes life feel like constant friction. The pattern is struggling, competing, pushing, proving, fighting to be right, fighting to be respected, fighting to control outcomes, fighting to not lose face. And we are also going to talk about the opposite pattern, the pattern of not struggling, not because someone is passive or weak, but because they understand something deeper about cause and effect. They understand that fate is not only shaped by what happens to you. Fate is shaped by what you keep feeding with your attention, your words, your tone, and your nervous system. Here are the two ideas I want you to carry through this entire story. First, struggling is often a sign of inner fear. It looks like strength, but it is usually fear trying to regain control. And fear creates heavy karma, because fear makes you say and do things you later regret. Second, not struggling does not mean letting everything slide. It means choosing the clean action without ego warfare. It means acting from clarity rather than from the need to win. When you act from clarity, life often becomes smoother because you stop creating unnecessary resistance. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a person I will call Daniel. Daniel was capable, intelligent, fast. He had a sharp mind and a strong sense of fairness. He could see problems quickly and he could argue his point clearly. In his early years, this looked like confidence. People even admired it. He was the one who spoke up in meetings, the one who corrected mistakes, the one who did not let things slide. But over time, something started to happen. His life became full of friction. At work, he was often in conflict, not always obvious conflict, but tension. People became cautious around him. They stopped sharing ideas freely. They avoided casual conversations. Some started doing things without telling him, just to avoid debate. At home, small issues turned into long arguments. A simple disagreement about schedules could become a battle about respect. A small misunderstanding could become a trial where each person presented evidence. Daniel felt exhausted, but he believed the exhaustion was caused by other people being unreasonable. He thought if they would just understand, if they would just admit they were wrong, everything would be fine. Then one day something happened that cracked his certainty. His closest friend told him, quietly, without drama, "I love you, but being around you feels like being in a contest. Even when nothing is wrong, it feels like you are ready to fight." That sentence hit him like cold water, because Daniel did not wake up each day wanting to be a warrior. He thought he was being responsible. He thought he was protecting truth. He thought he was protecting fairness. But the friend saw something deeper. Daniel was protecting his ego. He was protecting the image of being right, being competent, being respected. And that protection looked like struggle. Now listen closely. Many people struggle not because they enjoy conflict, but because they fear vulnerability. They fear being dismissed. They fear being taken advantage of. They fear being seen as weak. So they tighten, they argue, they prove, they dominate the conversation. They push their point until the other person either submits or leaves. It feels like winning, but it is actually losing, because you lose trust, you lose warmth, you lose the invisible support that makes life easier. Daniel did not understand this yet, so he tried to fix the situation the way he fixed everything. He pushed harder. He tried to explain to his friend why he was right. He tried to defend his behavior. He tried to prove that his struggle was justified. And the friend said something that changed the direction of his life. The friend said, "I am not saying you are wrong about the facts. I am saying you are losing the heart." Losing the heart, that is the phrase. That is the real danger of struggling. In many wisdom traditions, especially Buddhist practice, the heart is not only emotion. The heart is the seat of intention. It is where your karma begins. If the heart is poisoned by pride, anger, and fear, then even correct actions can carry harmful energy. And harmful energy produces harmful consequences, even if your logic is perfect. So Daniel went looking for answers, not online arguments, real answers. He visited an older teacher he respected, not a celebrity, just a calm person who lived simply and had a kind of quiet authority. Daniel explained his problems, and the teacher listened without judgment. Then the teacher asked one question: "When you struggle, what are you trying to protect?" Daniel immediately said, "I am protecting what is right." The teacher smiled gently and said, "Are you sure? Or are you protecting your identity as the one who is right?" That question sat in the room like a bell, because Daniel realized he had mixed two things together: truth and ego, fairness and pride, responsibility and control. Then the teacher said something that might sound simple, but is hard to live. You can protect truth without attacking people. You can correct a problem without needing to win. You can set a boundary without making the other person small. The moment you need to make someone small to feel secure, you have already lost. This is one of the deepest lessons about not struggling. Not struggling does not mean you do not act. It means you do not act with the poison of ego warfare. Now let us slow down and make this extremely practical, because this topic touches everything in life. Why do people who do not struggle often have smoother fates? Because struggle produces heat, and heat produces mistakes. When you are struggling, your nervous system is activated. Your breath gets shallow. Your tone becomes sharp. Your attention narrows. You stop listening. You stop seeing options. You start chasing the fastest victory. Then you say words that cut. Then you send messages you regret. Then you make decisions too quickly. Then you create enemies you did not need to create. Then you burn bridges that would have supported you later. This is how fate becomes heavy, not by external curses, but by the consequences of repeated struggle. Buddha's teaching describes this as causes and conditions. The angry mind creates angry speech. Angry speech creates conflict. Conflict creates separation. Separation creates loneliness. Loneliness creates more fear. Fear creates more struggle. It is a loop. Not struggling breaks the loop. How? First, not struggling begins with seeing the moment of tightening. Daniel began to notice that before every argument, something happened in his body. His jaw tightened. His shoulders rose. His stomach hardened. His breath stopped flowing. The body was preparing for battle. Most people do not notice this. They think the battle starts with words, but the battle starts in the body. It starts with contraction. So the teacher gave Daniel a simple practice. When you feel the tightening, do not speak yet. Exhale slowly. Relax the jaw. Drop the shoulders. Then ask one question. What is my real goal? This is the key. What is my real goal? If the real goal is to solve a problem, then struggle is not necessary. You can speak calmly. You can propose a solution. You can negotiate. You can set boundaries. If the real goal is to protect ego, then you will struggle. You will argue. You will attack. You will insist. So the question reveals the truth. Daniel started to use it. not perfectly, but sincerely. One day at work, someone criticized his project. Normally, Daniel would defend immediately. He would list reasons. He would counterattack. He would prove. This time he noticed the tightening. He breathed. He asked, "What is my real goal?" He realized his real goal was not to win the debate. His real goal was to deliver a good project and maintain trust with his team. So he asked a question instead of defending. "Can you tell me what part concerns you most?" The room changed. The critics softened. The conversation became practical. The team found a solution. Daniel felt something new. He did not feel defeated. He felt free. This is the paradox. When you stop struggling, you gain power because you gain clarity. And clarity is real power. Now let us talk about another layer that the teacher pointed out. Struggle is addictive. It gives you a temporary sense of control. It makes you feel alive. It makes you feel righteous. It makes you feel superior. It makes you feel protected. But the cost is enormous. It costs you peace. It costs you relationships. It costs you health. It costs you good fortune. So the path is to replace the addiction to struggle with the discipline of clarity. In Buddhist practice, this is called restraint and mindfulness. Restraint means you do not feed the impulse immediately. Mindfulness means you see the impulse clearly. Wisdom means you choose what reduces suffering. Not struggling is not passive. It is wise restraint in action. Now I want to bring this into family life, because this is where struggle destroys love most often. Many people struggle with the people they love because love makes you vulnerable, and vulnerability triggers fear, and fear triggers struggle. You want to be understood. You want to be respected. You want your effort to be recognized. You want your pain to be acknowledged. These are human needs. But when you demand them through struggle, you often get the opposite, because struggle makes the other person defensive. Defensiveness blocks understanding. So not struggling in family life means speaking truth without war. It means you can say, "That hurt me," without saying, "You are a terrible person." It means you can say, "I need this boundary," without humiliating the other person. It means you can say, "I disagree," without needing to destroy. This is maturity. This is compassion. This is also karma, because the quality of your speech becomes the quality of your relationships, and the quality of your relationships becomes the quality of your life. Now let us return to Daniel again. As he practiced not struggling, he noticed something surprising. Some people still did not change. Some people were still unreasonable. Some people still tried to provoke him, but his life still improved. Why? Because he stopped feeding the wrong battles. He realized many battles are not worth fighting, not because you are weak, but because the battle itself is the trap. He also realized something else. Not struggling does not mean never confronting. It means confronting cleanly. So when someone crossed a line, he set a boundary calmly. He did not argue for hours. He did not explain endlessly. He simply stated the boundary and the consequence, then followed through. This is a key point. People who struggle often talk a lot, argue a lot, and then do nothing. People who do not struggle talk less and act more cleanly. Clean action is powerful. It creates a reputation. People learn you are steady. They learn you are not easy to manipulate. They learn you are fair. They learn you are not hungry for conflict. This steadiness attracts good fortune, because people trust steady people. They want to work with steady people. They want to build with steady people. They forgive steady people when mistakes happen. Again, people call this luck, but it is the social fruit of inner cultivation. Now let us go even deeper into the spiritual meaning. In Buddhist teaching, clinging is the root of suffering. Struggle is oft unclinging in motion, clinging to being right, clinging to being respected, clinging to control, clinging to a fixed identity, clinging to outcomes. When you cling, you suffer. You suffer even if you win, because you must keep winning to feel safe. Not struggling is practicing non-clinging. Non-clinging does not mean you do not care. It means you care without needing to control everything. You act, then you release. You speak truth, then you release. You do your best, then you release. You set boundaries, then you release. You plant good seeds, then you release. This release is not weakness, it is freedom. Freedom changes destiny, because a free mind sees options. A trapped mind sees only threats. Now I want to share a reflection that might sound uncomfortable at first, but is very important. Sometimes the reason you struggle is that you are trying to force someone to become the version of them that you need. You want them to be more considerate, more mature, more honest, more loving, more responsible. And when they are not, you struggle. You argue, you lecture, you push, but you cannot force inner transformation in another person. You can only influence through your actions. And you can protect yourself through boundaries. If you accept this truth, your life becomes lighter because you stop wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable. This is one of the most compassionate realizations. Compassion for yourself and compassion for others. You stop turning people into enemies simply because they cannot meet your expectations. Instead, you see them clearly. You choose what is healthy. You release what is harmful. You do not need to hate. This is wisdom. Now let us move into the emotional closing, because this topic always touches a tender place. Many of you have been struggling for years, struggling in work, struggling in love, struggling in family, struggling inside your own mind. And you are tired. So let me say this plainly. You do not need to struggle to be strong. You do not need to struggle to be respected. You do not need to struggle to protect yourself. You need clarity. You need boundaries. You need steady action. You need compassion. You need patience. If you practice these, your fate begins to shift, not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop creating extra suffering. I have seen people change their entire lives by stopping one habit, the habit of arguing in their head, the habit of proving, the habit of needing to win, the habit of fighting for face. When they stopped, their body softened, their sleep improved, their tone changed, their relationships improved, their opportunities increased. Again, not magic, cause and effect. Now, here is a simple experiment for you. For the next 3 days, notice one situation where you usually struggle. A conversation, a family disagreement, a work conflict, an online argument, an internal debate in your mind. When you notice the tightening, pause, exhale slowly, relax the jaw. Ask, what is my real goal? Then choose the cleanest action that serves the real goal. Speak softly. Ask a question. State a boundary. Leave the conversation. Do the task and stop explaining. Then release. Watch what happens. You may discover that the world pushes back less when you stop pushing in the wrong way. Now it is your turn. In the comments, share where you struggle the most. Is it with your partner, your parent, your child, your boss, your own mind? And if you have ever experienced the power of not struggling, share what changed when you stopped fighting. If you want more long-form teachings like this, Subscribe to the channel, like the video, so it reaches the people who are exhausted from constant conflict. And if you want to support this work, comment, share, and join the membership so we can keep building a community that practices wisdom in daily life. Until next time, keep the heart clean. Choose clarity over ego warfare. Act firmly without poison. And let your fate become lighter through the quiet strength of not struggling. Article 10 of 10. Generated 20,251,121,430. Why does overcaring create more fighting? The hidden worth about letting elders stay independent. This is the last article in this batch. Have you ever tried so hard to take care of an older parent or relative, only to end up arguing more than ever? And have you ever felt guilty for being frustrated, while also feeling trapped by the pressure to do everything perfectly? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a very tender subject that carries a lot of love, a lot of fear, and a lot of karma. Why does overcaring often lead to more conflict? Why does trying to control everything for an elder sometimes make the relationship worse? And why does supporting independence with wisdom and compassion often create more peace for everyone? Here are the two ideas to carry through this story. First, care without trust becomes control. And control, even when motivated by love, often feels like disrespect to the person receiving it. That disrespect creates resistance, and resistance creates conflict. Second, true filial compassion is not only doing more. True filial compassion is reducing suffering. Sometimes reducing suffering means doing less, stepping back, and allowing dignity and autonomy to remain. Let me tell you a story. I once met someone I will call Sarah. Sarah was a good daughter. She was not careless. She was not selfish. She was the kind of person who took responsibility seriously. When her father got older, she stepped in. At first it looked like love in action. She drove him to appointments. She managed his medications. She cleaned the house. She cooked. She organized paperwork. She called him every day. She installed safety devices. She tried to remove every possible risk. But slowly, the relationship began to change. Her father became more irritable. He resisted her suggestions. He snapped at her. He refused help even when he needed it. He started hiding things, like not telling her when he felt pain, not telling her when he forgot a medication, not telling her when he felt lonely. Sarah was shocked. She thought, I am doing everything. Why is he treating me like the enemy? Then the conflict escalated. Every visit became a negotiation. Every conversation felt tense. Every suggestion became a trigger. Sarah began to feel resentment. She hated herself for it. She would think, how can I feel resentful when he is old and vulnerable? But resentment does not appear because you are bad. Resentment appears when your energy is drained and your effort is not respected. This is the painful truth. When caregivers overextend, they often become exhausted. Exhaustion turns into irritation. Irritation turns into sharp tone. Sharp tone turns into conflict. Then guilt grows, and guilt makes you try harder. And trying harder makes you control more. And controlling more makes the elder resist more. It becomes a loop. This loop is very common, and it is also deeply karmic, because it is a chain of intentions, actions, reactions, and consequences, not punishment. Pattern. So, Sarah went looking for guidance. She spoke to an older family friend who had cared for elders for many years. The friend listened, then asked Sarah one question. Do you want your father to be safe? Or do you want him to feel alive? Sarah immediately said both. The friend nodded and said, Sometimes you cannot maximize both. If you maximize safety, you may reduce dignity. If you maximize dignity, you accept some risk. Wisdom is choosing balance. That sentence changed everything, because Sarah realized she had been treating her father like a problem to manage, like a system to optimize, like a fragile object. But her father was still a person, still a mind, still a history, still pride, still dignity. Many older people do not resist help because they hate you. They resist because help can feel like erasure. When you take over everything, you may accidentally communicate. You are no longer capable. You are no longer trusted. Your life is now a project. Even if you never say those words, the behavior communicates it. So the elder resists to protect dignity. This is the first key to understanding why overcaring creates fighting. Now let us connect this to deeper wisdom, because this is not only psychology, this is also compassion and karma. In many Eastern traditions, filial care is sacred, but sacred does not mean controlling. Sacred means reverent. It means seeing the elder as a human being, not as a burden, not as a child, not as an object. Buddhist compassion includes respect. True compassion does not take away agency unless necessary. True compassion supports the person to keep their inner strength as long as possible, because inner strength is life force. When inner strength collapses, the body often declines faster. So supporting independence is not neglect. It can be the most skillful form of care. Now, here is another story scene that shows this clearly. Sarah once visited her father and saw that he had arranged the kitchen differently. Items were not where she thought they should be. The counter looked messy. She felt anxiety rise. She started cleaning quickly. She started moving things back. She started lecturing him about hazards. Her father watched quietly, then said, "Stop. This is my home." Sarah froze. She felt offended. She thought, "I am helping." But the father was saying something deeper. "I want to exist here as myself." This is where many caregivers lose the heart. They forget that the elder is still the owner of their life. So the friend suggested a new approach, a compassionate structure. First, ask permission before helping. Second, offer choices instead of commands. Third, prioritize dignity as much as safety. Fourth, reduce arguing, increase clarity. Fifth, do not do for them what they can still do, even if it is slower. Sarah was skeptical. She thought, if I let him do things, he will get hurt. The friend said, if you take everything away, he will die inside faster, not physically immediately, but the will. And when the will declines, the body follows. That is not a threat. It is a reality many families witness. Now Sarah tried the new approach. She started with permission. Instead of walking in and taking over, she asked, "Would you like help with the kitchen today? Or would you prefer I help with something else?" Her father was surprised. He was used to being corrected. He was used to being managed. He hesitated, then said, "Help me with the heavy groceries, but leave the rest." Sarah did it. She wanted to clean more. She felt the urge to control, but she breathed and held back. Something changed. Her father smiled slightly, not a huge smile, a small sign of relief, because the house was still his. The life was still his. This is where conflict starts to soften. Now let us talk about the deeper emotional engine behind overcaring. Overcaring is often fear disguised as love. You fear your parent will fall. You fear they will get sick. You fear they will forget. You fear they will be lonely. You fear losing them. You fear guilt. You fear judgment from others. So you control. Control gives you temporary relief because it makes you feel you are doing something. But control also creates pressure, and pressure creates resistance. This is a universal law. The more you squeeze, the more people pull away. So the practice is not to remove love. It is to remove fear-based control. This is where Buddhist practice can help, because Buddhism trains you to see fear clearly and not let fear run your speech. You notice fear in the body, tight chest, fast breath. You breathe, you often. Then you act from clarity. Clarity says what is truly necessary. Fear says, do everything. Doing everything is impossible. It will burn you out. Burnout will harm the relationship. Then everyone suffers more. So, skillful care begins with realistic care. Now let us talk about boundaries. Because many caregivers feel trapped because they do not know how to set boundaries without guilt. Boundaries are not lack of love. Boundaries are protection of sustainability. If you collapse, you cannot care. If you become resentful, your care becomes toxic. So boundaries protect everyone. Sarah learned to set boundaries cleanly. She stopped answering every call immediately. She set certain times to check in. She asked other family members to participate. She said no to tasks that were not urgent. She focused on what mattered most. At first, she felt guilty, but then she noticed something surprising. Her father adjusted. He did not collapse. He actually became more proactive because she stopped rescuing every small inconvenience. He had to use his own strength again. This is another key. Overcaring can accidentally weaken the person you are trying to help, not because you mean to, but because constant rescue teaches helplessness. Supporting independence teaches competence. Competence builds dignity. Dignity reduces conflict. Now let us discuss a very sensitive point. Some elders truly need more help. Illness, cognitive decline, severe mobility issues. In these cases, independence has limits. Safety matters. But even then, dignity can remain. Dignity can remain through tone, through asking rather than commanding, through explaining kindly, through involving them in decisions where possible, through respecting preferences, through not speaking about them as if they are not in the room. These small actions are powerful. They reduce suffering. They create good karma in the relationship. And karma here is not theory. It is the emotional atmosphere that follows you. If you care with resentment, the atmosphere becomes heavy. If you care with compassion and clarity, the atmosphere becomes lighter. Now I want to share another story scene. Sarah once argued with her father about taking a walk. She wanted him to exercise. He wanted to sit. She pushed. He resisted. Words got sharp. Later, she realized she was not really fighting about exercise. She was fighting with fear. She was afraid his health would decline and she would feel helpless. So the next time, she tried something different. She said, "I worry about your health because I love you. Would you be willing to walk with me for 10 minutes? And if you feel tired, we stop." Her father agreed. Notice the difference. She spoke love, not control. She offered choice, not demand. This is how compassion becomes practical. Now let us move into the deeper spiritual reflection, because caring for elders is a powerful field of cultivation. It forces you to face impermanence. It forces you to face aging. It forces you to face helplessness. It forces you to face attachment. It forces you to face the desire to control life. Many people avoid these truths, but caregiving puts them right in front of you. So caregiving can become a path of awakening, not a romantic path. A real path. You practice patience when the same story repeats. You practice humility when your effort is not praised. You practice compassion when you feel exhausted. You practice wisdom when you must choose priorities. You practice boundaries so love does not become resentment. You practice non-clinging by accepting change. This is deep cultivation. And here is the surprising part. When you cultivate this way, your own life often becomes smoother because you become a person with steadier mind and cleaner speech. And those qualities improve all relationships, not only with elders. Now let us end with a closing reflection that speaks to the heart of many viewers. If you are caring for an elder and you are tired, I want you to hear this. You are not failing because you feel frustrated. You are not a bad person because you need boundaries. You are not unfilial because you cannot do everything. Your love matters, but love must be sustainable. Try this shift. Instead of asking, "How do I control every risk?" ask, "How do I reduce suffering while protecting dignity?" Instead of doing everything, do what matters most. Instead of arguing, create structure. Instead of rescuing, support capability. Instead of fear, control, practice calm guidance. Instead of guilt, practice clarity. This is not only practical, it is karmic, because it changes the chain of cause and effect in your relationship. When you reduce conflict, you create more warmth. When you create more warmth, the elder feels safer. When they feel safer, they cooperate more. When they cooperate more, care becomes easier. When care becomes easier, your own heart becomes lighter. That is how destiny turns in family life. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments, share what part of elder care is hardest for you. Is it fear of accidents? Is it guilt? Is it siblings not helping? Is it conflict? Is it exhaustion? And if you have found a way to support independence that improved the relationship, share what worked. If you want more long-form teachings like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video so it reaches the people who are quietly carrying caregiving burdens. And if you want to support this work, comment, share, and join the membership so we can keep making content that turns wisdom into daily practice. Until next time, keep the heart compassionate and the mind clear. Care with love, but also with trust. Protect safety, but also protect dignity. And let your family karma become lighter through the quiet strength of wise care. There are moments when you see something, and your heart simply whispers, "This one is meant for me." Bracelet carries more than beads. It carries intention, protection, and quiet strength. Something to guide your thoughts and keep your spirit steady. If you felt that gentle pull toward any of the bracelets shown, the purchase link is waiting in the description, and the full collection is displayed on our channel store. Follow your intuition. It rarely leads you wrong.